Okay. Okay. All right then. I don't know what I did wrong with the Instagram, but I don't know if it's gonna work today. But hopefully, it's on the other ones. Hi, everybody. It is about 2 minutes after 9, and this is gonna be my final live this week for um, finding out about escaping the rat race. And on Wednesday, I start the challenge. So Wednesday night, Thursday night, and Friday night of this week. That's the 17th, 18th, and 19th, from 7:30 to 9:30. I will be having some deep teaching about how to escape the rat race and how to create your plan B. So I changed around the way I was going to do it. I'm actually creating PowerPoint presentations so that I can stay on track and get all of the education in that I want to get in without getting on rabbit trails. And even if I get on a rabbit trail, I'm still, going to be led by my little slide. So I'll have the format is going to be at the beginning of it. We're going to have the training, which is going to be an hour. And then after that, those who have signed up to get their questions answered, their personal questions answered, or get those answered. And then that's the second hour. We have a Facebook group that things will be posted in and you can chat in. And then on the final day, which is Friday, we're going to have additional training. And that's going to be, so that's going to put it over 2 hours, but I'm going to be training on Friday about how to create a plan B. So I don't know how many people are out there. I don't know. I can't tell anymore. I can't tell how many people are looking except for if you're in the chat. So there were two questions that were asked during the day, yesterday and today, in my regular YouTube comment section. So I am going to answer those questions before I go into from rock bottom to six figures. The first question is, how can a sole proprietor employ his minor child? Please explain the necessary supporting documents and the steps involved. So I do have experience with this. When my children were minors, they did work for my company. If you are a sole proprietor, which means it's only you, you're not incorporated at all, or if you are a partnership, that a partnership is two or more people working in there, but the partnership has to be the family members, like the spouse, the two spouses. You can't have other partners, your friend down the street and all that. It has to be a family partnership. Those are the two instances where you are able to hire your minor children. Now, you can pay them up to the standard deduction for that year. So it's around $14,000. It's a little bit more than that. You can pay them for the year up to the standard deduction without having any tax taken out on these children and without the Medicare and the Social Security. So they don't have to file a tax return. What you need to do, first of all, is write up something that says you're going to hire your children, their ages, and all that. You, of course, they're not old enough to fill out an employment contract, but what you want to do is you want to keep timesheets. That's the major thing that they want to see. They want to see that the children were working. You want to keep their timesheets, and you don't want to pay them too much depending on how old they are. So you can hire them, I think they say between 8 and 18. After 18, then you have to start taking the tax out. So like I had a meeting one time, I did a seminar, and this man he stood up and started jumping because he had 3 children within that age group, and he could literally write off almost $45,000 for that year. Now, of course, you have to pay the children. Those are the regulations. You have to pay them. You can't just have a deduction for it on your tax return and you didn't pay them. So they have to be paid. They have to be paid a reasonable salary. For example, an 8-year-old may not be able to make $14,000 in a year. They have school. They have rules about school. And I did find this out. Each state has their own regulations concerning this. So nationwide, you can hire your children, but some states say that they can only work on the weekends. Other states say they can only work in the summer and on the weekends, and so on. So you have to check with your particular state to see what the regulations are. But they will fill out time sheets. You'll have those time sheets, and there's lists of things out there online that children can do, even the smaller children, if you are using them in advertising. Like if you're selling something that children use or parents use for children, then your children can be the ones in the photography, and then they get a salary for that. So there are just so many different things that they can do. When my children were younger, I had a CPA firm, and it was a home-based business. So most of my basement was my office, and it had a separate entrance so the clients would come in. And I allowed my clients to bring their children because my children were being paid to entertain their children. So we had a big old jungle gym out in the backyard, and sometimes they would go play there. But if it was a rainy day, or if the children that were the guests didn't want to go outside, then we had this gigantic floor model TV. This was a long time ago, guys. And they would have little videos that they would play. So they got paid for that. They got paid for things like cleaning up. They were old enough to clean up and sweep the office and dust and all that. So they got paid every other week or so. They got a check. And this was interesting because I would pay them out of the company account. I would give them both checks, and they both had savings accounts at the credit union. And they were little. They were like, let's say 8 and 10 when it first started. And they would go up to the counter with their own checks and deposit their checks. And what was interesting was the tellers would be so flabbergasted that these children were coming up here with these, $200 or $300 or $400 checks. They didn't understand. They never asked. They didn't understand. And a couple of times during that period of time, they messed up the deposit because they were just so flabbergasted. But I got a call from the state of Georgia back then and said, "Hey, we have 2 W-2s here." This was after, filing and taking the deduction for their salary. I have 2 W-2s here that don't have any tax taken out. And then I told the lady, basically, I don't have to take any tax out on those because, and I explained the whole thing about you can hire your children. I told her how to look it up, and she wanted to know for herself. So to recap, the necessary documents are, you got to have timesheets. That's the necessary documents. And you want to make sure that, you thoroughly documented what they do. So not just a timesheet. What did they do? What did you have them doing during this year? And I'm kind of the one that goes overboard. I would take pictures of them doing it. So I would take pictures of them outside playing with clients' children. I really didn't have a way to prove that they were clients' children, but I had pictures, and also of them cleaning up the office and the stairs, and the long driveway, walkway from the street all the way up to the office door, those kinds of things. That answers that question. So the next question is, what if I have nothing or know nothing business worthy to offer? Okay. What this person is saying is, I keep saying that you have value in the marketplace. And they're saying they feel like they have nothing to offer in the marketplace. They don't have any knowledge, they don't have any skills or anything like that. I tend not to believe that. And when I have clients, I dig it out of them. They might say that up front, but I start asking a whole bunch of questions. I have a series of questions that I ask to these clients. And then they end up finding something. But if it's something, even if it's a skill that they have that they don't want to do, then there's always other ways to make money. For example, there's affiliate marketing. And I used to do affiliate marketing even when I had my business in the beginning. So, for example, there was a guy that said, if I introduce people to his product, he would give me 50% of it was a $149 product, I think. He would give me 50% of the $149. And I was like, okay, well, I like the product. I use the product, so I'll tell other people about it. And he was paying me decent checks. I mean, I was getting $500 and $600 sometimes because I was, showing people. I think I had some kind of a link, and I would have the people go to the link, and once they bought the product, I would get 50% of it. And that went on for a couple of years. So that's affiliate marketing. In other words, if you don't have anything for yourself, then sell somebody else's stuff. With my challenges and things like that, I allow people to send people there. So, for example, the challenge that I have coming up on this Wednesday, if there are people that say, okay, well, I know people that need the information that you have, so I pay them, I forget it was 25% or 30, some percentage of the amount that the people pay to get into the challenge. So you can do that all day, every day. Those are out there everywhere. And you can probably find a product or a service that you really are passionate about, and see if that person that's selling that product or service will give you an affiliate fee. And I think that will be the best way. If we come to the conclusion that after digging that you don't have anything. For example, if a client comes along and they're barely out of high school and they don't have any experience, they may not have anything that they know about that they're passionate about yet, and they don't have any experience. And then if they want an extra income outside of their job, then it would be good for them to do the affiliate marketing. The so that was the end of the questions. So if you all that are in the chat, if you have some questions that you want to propose, thank you, Prosper. If you have any questions, I'll answer those in between. So I'm going to go on to talk about the subject matter that I put out there, from rock bottom to six figures. And my overarching statement about that is, if I could do it, you could do it too. And it has a lot to do with mindset. My father used to tell people that he raised me in such a way that you could drop me out of a helicopter on a banana peel in the middle of Siberia and I would still be okay. And that's the way he raised me. So keep that in mind. When I was maybe 15, 16 years old, he came to me with a magazine. It was a Black Enterprise magazine. And he opened it up to a double page and he said, "You need to pick one of these careers because you like nice things." And he walked off. And so I'm looking at this book and it has all these different careers in it. And, there's a doctor, there's a lawyer, there's an engineer, all these other things. And I didn't want to be a doctor. I didn't want to be an engineer because my uncle was in engineering school, and I would look at his books and I didn't know what all that was. So I selected accounting. I said, I'm pretty good at that. So I decided that I was going to be a CPA. I was pretty good at that. And he also told me that that was a good choice. If you're a CPA, you have lots of choices as far as careers. You can work for a CPA firm, you can work for a regular company as a CPA, you can teach as a CPA, or you can have your own business as a CPA. And I did three of those. I first of all, I worked for CPA firm, then I worked for corporate America, then I had my own firm. And even though I'm not teaching in academia, I'm teaching. So I've been teaching for a while. So I got that, and then of course you guys that know me, after a while, know that I discovered some things about the IRS. I was angry about the fact that our money was being taken, and I was very, very outspoken about it. Now, a little naive in that I thought that if I explained that to people, and specifically when they took me to trial on a misdemeanor charge called willful failure to file, that the people would understand that this was our money. Well, I underestimated fear. Fear is a big factor, and ended up, as most of you know, being imprisoned on a misdemeanor charge of willful failure to file tax returns. Not only that, they gave me a 4-year sentence. Now, think about how many people have done so many different things, like the DuPont guy. He did something unspeakable to a child, and the judge said that he had home arrest because he wouldn't fare well in prison. So he didn't even go to jail for doing unspeakable things to a child. So that kind of thing. So I had a 4-year sentence on that misdemeanor willful failure to file charge. Right. I spent 3 years in prison. Three. The reason why I didn't spend 4 years in there is because I had 6 months good time and 6 month halfway house. So since I was the model prisoner, they had to give me the 6 months good time and 6 months halfway house. I got out in 3 years, spent a little bit of that time in a halfway house, immediately got out and had a job, which they take money from when you're supposed to be in a halfway house, which is interesting. So I felt like when I got out there, I was at rock bottom. I had an $800 a car that was worth $800. That's what I had. And I'm giving a lot of personal details, but I was married at the time, and I was smart enough to put the house totally in his name before I left, so that he could handle anything that went on. Because I know some of the girls still had the house in both names or in their name, and if the mortgage fell behind or anything happened, then the husbands couldn't do anything because their name was still on it. But anyway, long story short, right after that, a divorce came. And so when I mean rock bottom, I mean rock bottom and starting to dig. Can you imagine hitting rock bottom and starting to dig? Anyway, so a lot of things going on. And that's when that whole thing about being dropped out of a helicopter in the middle of Siberia on a banana peel comes up. That's when that stuff comes up. So I then got a job, and then I wanted a house. When the divorce came, I didn't want to stay in that house. I got another house, and before I got the house, I searched around for houses, and with the little job I had and maybe a little bit of money or whatever, um, I qualified for a house. I found a house. That one didn't work out, and then I found the house that I'm in now and moved into that. So when I got out, it was February of 2011. So between February in 2011 and January of 2014, I was, well, let's take that back. Between February of 2011 and maybe September of 2015, I was just kind of trying to get my life back together. Let's say that. I wasn't speaking anymore because I'd been doing a lot of speaking at the time, but my speaking was about the whole tax thing. Wasn't doing that. And then I wanted more. So I went and got a part-time job. So I had a full-time job and I had a part-time job. So I remember, getting off work and, going straight over to the other job or coming home for a little while and all of that. And I still wanted more, but I was still kind of like floating around the bottom there. And then in late 2015, uh, somebody came to me and asked me, was I speaking? And they introduced themselves, and I got a mentor. So the mentor kind of saw things in me that I didn't see or couldn't see because of the bad things that were happening to me at the time. So from September of 2015 to December of 2015, I started getting myself together to become an entrepreneur. I ended up quitting that part-time job and then writing books. So I was already thinking to myself, oh, I'll write a course. So how many of you in the chat, put a one in the chat if you've heard of this platform called Udemy? I think that's how you pronounce it. So I was in the process of writing a little course for Udemy when I met my mentor, and I decided instead to write a book. And then after additional coaching, I ended up writing two books. So from October 2015 to January 12th, 2016, just a few months, I had two books in my hands. How to escape the rat race and how to stick it to the IRS. So how did I finish those books so quick? First of all, I was already in the process of writing the tax course. So that was how to stick it to the IRS. But then the how to escape the rat race was me sitting down and saying, I need to put a system together that's going to help me and help others. And that became the KPG system. Keep what you earn, protect what you earn, and grow what you earn. So the KPG system was birthed in the end of 2015. 2016, I stood up in the pulpit at my church with two books and took off from there. I started speaking again, but not necessarily on the taxes, but how to KPG, how to keep, protect, and grow what you earn. And back then, I had another name for my course. It was called The Elimination of Taxation and Debt Accumulation Frustration. Anyway, people started to come and say, hey, I need you to train me on how to do these things. I want to start a business, or I have a business and I'm paying too much. And so that's my wheelhouse. It's been my wheelhouse for years. Using the KPG system, I'm going to go through it, keeping what you earn. So I wanted to make sure that I didn't have a whole bunch of debt. Business debt is okay. I wasn't at that point to have business debt. I didn't want any personal debt. So I made sure that my credit card stayed low. I tried not to use them. And some of you know, like, my mentality was desperate times call for desperate measures. My house has 4 levels. So, and it only has one HVAC system. So it doesn't have like one in the attic and one in the basement or anything like that. It has one, and it's in the basement. And bills can be high in the winter and in the summer. And I was a strategic thinker then and now. And I said to myself, okay, what am I going to do about these high heat bills in the winter? So I would turn the heat down to 68, because remember, I'm the only one here. My children are grown. They have their own houses. And I would carry a space heater with me, eventually got 2 or 3 space heaters, and just left them in the room. And when I was in, if I was in the family room, I would turn it on, or drag that one into the kitchen. If I was in my bedroom, I would turn it on. If I was in my office, I would turn it on. So that kept me from trying to heat the whole house. But that's kind of hard in the summer, because you don't have, the fans are going to be just blowing the hot air. So what I found online, somebody sent me, was a portable air conditioner. I made it myself. I took a styrofoam cooler and filled it up with 18 frozen bottles of water, because I have a freezer in my garage. I have a huge freezer. So I would put the water in there, and then there's this contraption that goes on a dryer that kind of goes out, the nozzle like that. So I cut 2 holes in the top of the styrofoam, the little bitty styrofoam cooler. I cut the holes are about this big. So one of the holes, I stuck a little bitty fan in there, and it wasn't this fan, but this is the kind of fan it was. I have to keep myself warm, cool. So the fan was like down like this, and it was blowing the air down onto those 18 bottles of frozen water. And then the nozzle that you see on a dryer I stuck that down in there, and it was pushing that air out on me. So I would put it in a chair. I would put a towel in the chair because of the condensation, and that, wherever I was in the house, I would take that. So if I was in the family room, I would put it next to me on the sofa while I did work or whatever I was doing, and it would literally cool me for 3 hours. And then it was time to go to bed. The hardest part was changing out the 18 bottles of water. So I would, dump the little water out, take those bottles of water, put them on the bottom shelf of the freezer with a little, I had a little rag to let me know that that was the latest one. I would grab some off the top and put those 18 bottles of water in there, take that bad boy up in my room, put it in a chair next to my bed with the towel in it, and it would cool me for 3 hours into the night. I went through that, you all, just to make sure that my bills weren't high. And so the money that I saved, I was able to, reduce and get out of debt. And that's the keep part of it. The protect part of it was to make sure that my business was protected as I grew my business. And when I talked about the LLC and all that stuff, the LLC doesn't really protect you, but um, liability insurance protects you. So I get a liability policy every year to make sure that everything's taken care of. And then I started growing the money. So I started to invest in silver and gold. And by the end of 17, I was, introduced to some real estate. And that's when I learned about, the property in Costa Rica. So what I'm saying is I had to start over from nothing, y'all. I didn't have any money. I had a minimum wage job, but I had a mindset that says that you will not break me. I'm not going out like this. And so that's how I got back to, the six figures. Now, you may not have an accounting skill or something like that, but you have something. There's a there are people online on in social media that they just talk about whatever's going on in the community, and they're posting this stuff, or they're having these lives, and they make money. So you have something to offer. So I'm going to go up, and I'm going to start looking at the chat and see if there are some questions in here. I think there might. Somebody says yes, they remember my lectures. Yeah, I remember those. So somebody says, Cliff says, Sherry, it's so nice to see you after all these years. You were one of the first red pills about the truth about how warped government is. Warped government is. May God bless you. Thank you. Yeah, I used to do those lectures, and see, somebody asked me today. I was in a meeting with somebody today, and they said, you went through all of that and you just bounced back up and started doing the same thing that you were doing before. And I said, well, truth is truth. Truth is truth for everybody, or it's not truth at all. Just because I, was plopped in a cell for 3 years doesn't mean what I believe isn't the truth. So, greetings. Let's see. There's yeah, some of these people have gotten off scot-free. I don't know what they're going to do with the president's son, but it's my personal opinion that he shouldn't be walking around right now free. So, but that we're the little people. We're the little people. So anyway, they like to give, they like to give the wicked people a slap on the wrist. I'm sorry I went through. You know what? Hindsight is an exact science. If I had known now if I had known then what I know now, I would have done it a little differently. I still would have fought, but there were some strategic things that I could have done, maybe to keep myself out of the slammer. But it was meant for me to be there. I met people, and I learned a lot about what this government does in this the prison industrial complex. I needed to know that. Okay. So it says that I found out about the lie. You said that you felt that you deserved the punishment for the people that you went after. Don't get that one, but they were really after me. Somebody said they would love to see me in the Trump administration. I really, as far as government is concerned, my whole take on that is changing the players without changing the game is an act in futility. I feel like they're sleeping in the same bed and raping us all. I feel like Nothing has changed over the last 60, 70, 80 years. We're still in the middle class or getting lower, regardless of what party's in office. And that tells you something. That tells me that all they're really doing is a kabuki dance. They're shadow boxing and nothing changes. I've seen pictures of them after screaming at each other in the public, in the media, slapping each other on the back and in parties together. I refuse to believe it. So I believe that you and I need to start fending for ourselves. We need to make a community of people and start helping each other, because those in the corporatocracy, which is the government, the corporations, and well, yeah, the government, the corporations, and the banksters. That's what I call the corporatocracy. They don't care about you. Yeah. Um, you made what's called a swamp cooler. Is that a swamp cooler? Okay. It was, but you know what? I did that for a couple of years. And it kept the bills low, because here, like today, it was 98 degrees. And I had that meeting today, and when I got in my car, it was 100 degrees. So my air conditioner at the house was on all day. It cranked up about 9 o'clock in the morning, doesn't go off till about 10 o'clock. So that's a lot. So I mean, I can afford it now, but back then it was like, no, I can't keep my air up this high. Yeah. Let's see. You're a strong woman. God bless you. Thank you. Uh-huh. Let's see. Any questions down here? Politics are too chaos, I would believe. Yeah, I'm over it. I'm really over it, because it's, again, from what I've seen and what you guys can see, these people are playing a game with us. There was a shooting yesterday, and some of the news report that some loud noises drove uh, Donald Trump off the stage. They said loud noises, y'all. um whether you like him or not, report the news right. And see, that's why so many people don't even look at the mainstream media anymore. They're looking at people who are really trying to tell the truth. They don't want to change. No, they don't want to change. What they're doing is what they want to do. So this is all by design. This is the design for us to be where we are or lower, and for them to be where they are. And I really admonish you all to stop fighting each other. I know there are problems all over the country, but I want us to focus on who the real enemy is. The person who gets angry because, well, I can't even think of anything right now. There's a lot of like racial tensions. The person who gets mad because the Muslim person wants to do this, or the Christian person, or the Jewish person, all of that stuff like that. And they try to stoke those fires all the time. So we're focused in on fighting each other. I'm black, you're white. You a Jew? I'm a Christian. You a Muslim? Get all that right there. They're stoking those fires so we can be concentrating on mauling each other. And at the same time, they're building this fence around us. They want us to have nothing, own nothing, and be happy and all that. We're not paying attention to these things that are happening around us. We're not paying attention to the person that's buying up all the farmland. We're not paying attention to the fact that over 21 food processing plants have been burned up or somehow destroyed. We're not paying attention to those things. First of all, the mainstream media is not telling you, but you don't take the time to go and find out what's really going on. There's some bad stuff going on. I don't know when it's going to get worse, but it's going to get worse. So instead of fighting each other and worrying about this person and that person and what they did, and I know it's a lot of stuff, a lot of stuff. Protect yourself, protect your family, but get with other like-minded people if you can, because it's about to go down. Yeah, it's a hamster wheel. It's definitely a hamster wheel. So my escape the rat race theme, if in order to escape the rat race, you want to implement the KPG system. Keep what you earn. You got to learn how to do that. Protect what you earn. You got to learn how to do that. And grow what you earn. You got to learn how to do that. And get you off the hamster wheel. I've got this new intro to my not to my live video. I don't know how to even work it yet, but I got a new intro that somebody did for me. This got part of a hamster wheel on it and all that. But don't you want to put a one in the chat if you want to get off the hamster wheel? That's the thing. If you want to get out of the rat race, get off the hamster wheel, then put a one in the chat. If you're serious about doing that, then you're gonna start taking some steps to do that. Going back and forth to work every day is not going to get you anywhere but on the hamster wheel. Coming home and not spending your time building some kind of a business. And I don't know how you guys feel about the stock market. I know for the most part, the people that I deal with, they don't deal with that because it's not making them any money. You might say, "Oh, I started out in the stock market with $100,000, and now it's up to 200." But you're not doing anything with that growth. So why not take that $100,000 growth and start something that's going to bring you cash flow? The fact that you can say my account went from 100 to $200,000 is doing you no good at all. And I talked to somebody about that today also. It's not doing you a bit of good. Go and do something with take the money out. Now if you can't take it out, that's a big trap. Oh, that documentary, there's a documentary and then there's a book that's on PDF that you all have to read. And I'm glad that somebody talked to me about it today so I can immediately remember the name of it. The Great Taking. The Great Taking. How many of you have already read The Great Taking by David Rogers Webb or either seen the documentary, The Great Taking? It was eye-opening to me regarding mortgages. So I'm not going to even spoil it. I really want you all to go and look for the documentary, The Great Taking. Start your own garden, free and healthy food. Nate, that is also key. You want to depend as little on the grocery store as you can. Have a garden. If you have a garden, make sure that it's protected, not just from the four-legged creatures. We call them creatures. Do you all remember Andy Griffin? There was a guy on there. His name was Ernest T. Bass. It was the funniest thing. But they dressed him up one day and tried to pass him off as somebody in high society, and it didn't work. One lady said, "Oh, he's a dreadful creature." He said, "Creature? I'm not a creature." But the creatures in the backyard and the creatures that might be looking over your fence to get your stuff, just make sure your stuff is protected. I do have a garden. I have in my front yard, I have a pear. I mean, a pear. I have a peach tree, and it really yielded this year. It yielded to the point where one of the branches broke. That there were so many peaches. They were little peaches, and what I should have done in advance was put some neem oil on there before they budded because I had a serious problem with these little beetles. I mean, they were really big, and they were eating up. They were trying to eat up all of the. It was a battle, just for the first few, maybe 4 weeks after they budded, I was fighting them. I'd go out there and spray and all that. So I got the peach tree and I have herbs in the front yard. In the backyard, I have a pomegranate tree, a fig tree, a pecan tree, 2 apple trees. I have 2 blueberry bushes and 8 blackberry bushes. Obviously, I love blackberries. And 2 raised bed gardens that I plant kale and collards and things like that in, and sweet potatoes, depending on what season it is. So I could go to the store and get me some smoked salmon and then go in the backyard and get some kale, and it'll be a good day. So definitely try it. And even if you don't have a backyard, I'm looking right now up at my kale. I have kale growing in the kitchen because there's a thing called an aerial garden. And it's a machine about this big, and it has a light, the correct lighting. And you put the little pods in there, and these pods could be lettuce or I like kale, and they just have all kind of different herbs and things that you can grow. But I grow kale in the kitchen. So when I go to the farmer's market, I'll add that kale with it, or sometimes I'll just pick it off and eat it. So definitely grow something. Do the research. It doesn't take much to do the research. I know that you all as an audience don't spend a whole bunch of time doing foolishness on TV. just go and research what you can do. I have another girl that I know that has a some kind of structure about the size of a bathtub, and it's on legs, so it's up high. You don't have to bend over. And she filled it up with dirt, and she's growing stuff in the house also. Yes, this is the age of information, and I'm very glad that people are waking up. I'm very glad that people are asking the questions that'll change their lives for the better. It's all an act by government, and they tell you up front. You know what, JJ? Let me see how that works. They do tell you up front. They tell you what they're going to do before they do it. How many of you know they're talking about the next pandemic already? They're talking about it. I like sci-fi, and I like sci-fi since I was a child. But something that I learned as a young adult about sci-fi is when they tell you stuff. Like I like James Bond. Now, put your favorite James Bond character who played James Bond. If you're a James Bond fan, put that in the chat. But anyway, if you remember Goldfinger, the Goldfinger's name was Auric, and that means gold. And put it like that. That movie and a whole bunch of other movies tell you what they're doing or what they're gonna do. So I look for sci-fi for that. How many of you saw the movie that just came out? It was earlier this year that former President Obama signed off on, Leave the World Behind? Put a one in the chat if you saw that movie. Great. All right. I don't know how to pronounce your name. Quisim. I'm glad that you got that motivation. That's what my mentor did for me. I got motivated to get off my kabunkum and do something. And getting another job wasn't it. Going to get your systems analyst, going to do something that's going to bring money in, as opposed to staying at home, is always great. Always great. Nikki asked me what. I'm just learning how to do this, y'all. I can touch it and get it on the screen. What are my plans for the next year for me? Make as much money as I can before they crash this thing. I don't know if I can say stuff like that on there, but I'm saying it. They can shadow ban me all they want to, but yeah, I do have a home in Costa Rica that I bought. It's a 3-bedroom, 1-bathroom house just for now because I'm building that community that I talked about, and that's going to take some time because the permitting and all those things take time. So I've got this house. I rent that house out while I'm not there, and I when the community is done, then I'll rent that house out full time. So it's my plan to be a snowbird. I don't know if you all know what that is. Go back and forth. Come here, stay there sometime, come here. And then when it gets to the point where it's not comfortable for me to stay here anymore, then I'll be down there. And as I've said before, some of you may not have heard, um, I won't freeze to death down there. I'll be a little warm sometimes, but I can always make that swamp cooler again. uh, they do have air conditioning there, and I won't starve to death. Aside from the fact that there are fish all over the place, you've got fresh water and you've got the seawater there, and there 70% of the trees that are there have stuff growing on them. So you just go out into the backyard. Like in my front yard at the house I have now, they have what's the one that starts with the P? I forgot the orange looking one. Anyway, they have fruit in the front yard. I happen to like mangoes a whole lot. I like pineapples. They have that. Dole, Del Monte, and what's the other one? Chiquita are in Costa Rica in my area big time. I mean, you can see miles and miles of bananas and stuff like that. So there's food everywhere. That's my plan. Yeah, people aren't paying attention. We need to pay attention to what's going on. Yes, it's all by design. It is spiritual warfare, Cliff. This is serious spiritual warfare, and people better know that. Do you think it's more important to focus on things in the United States rather than, say, example, Israel or Palestine? You can focus on things in Israel or Palestine if you're Israeli or Palestinian. I mean, I don't like what's going on over there, and to a certain degree, to the degree that it affects us, then I'm concerned about it. So whatever is going on in another country, geopolitical issues affect us in certain ways. For example, with this BRICS thing and them deciding not to use the petrodollar anymore. So the dollar had been the world's currency for a while, and it's falling off now. When it falls off completely, the dollar's going to be just like any of these other little pesos and stuff like that. That's what you need to be getting ready for. So geopolitically, I'm looking at finances. And even though the wars and things, they do affect finances, try to focus in on making sure that you understand how these geopolitical occurrences are affecting your finances. And that was Nate again. Good question. We all need to claim our estates and establish our houses. Yes. America is just a national pyramid scheme within a global pyramid scheme. That's all just an empty suit of nothingness and valueless paper exchange for actual resources. That is key. That is key. Valueless paper exchange for actual resources. We have been doing that for too long. That's why I deal with gold, silver, and real estate. You have mentioned at one time a particular new media to watch. Can you share that information? What media do I watch? When I'm decompressing, I watch Lynette Zhang. I watch We Are Change with a little fella, a young fella named Luke Radowski. I watch The Economic Ninja. I watch The Digital Nomad. I think those are the ones economically that I watch. I know Robert Kiyosaki has some things on. Sometimes I watch that. So those are some of the economic and political. Peter Schiff, Erwin Schiff's son, I watch him sometimes. So those are the ones that I watch for economics. Now, if I want a few laughs, I might watch something else. I was, my degree, my doctorate degree is in Christian education. So it's a doctorate of ministry in Christian education, and my dissertation was about feminism. So I kind of watched some things out there in the manosphere just to see what's going on. I don't do it a lot anymore, but I was doing it heavily when I was doing the dissertation. So that's what I watch for information. In order to help others, I believe we have to help ourselves first. I totally agree with that. And another saying is that you can't help anybody that doesn't want to be helped. Know that you can't help anybody that doesn't want to be helped, no matter how much you really want that for them. If they don't want it for themselves, it's not going to work. It's more important to take care of your own matters in the United States. Clean your own house first. That is true. Someone had asked me if I was a sovereign citizen because I had spoken about it before. Why do you suggest people not to be one, or if they should be one? A lot of times in this country, whatever you call yourself doesn't matter to these people. I've had people that were natives. I've had people that were in different sovereign citizen situations, right, that still got dragged out of their house. So they ignore a lot of stuff. Now, I'm not saying it's not true. I'm not saying that these titles and these things aren't true. What I'm saying to you is, whatever you call yourself, if you're not complying with what they want, a lot of times you're not going to be able to function in the manner that you want to function. And I know that there are people out there that are maybe quiet and keep their head down, and they're able to function in certain ways. But if they want to get you, they're going to get you, because there was no reason why, certain people need to be dragged out of their house when they filed the proper paperwork and did all these other things. So you have to pick your own battles. Right now, my battle is I want to structure myself in a way that I have multiple streams of income coming in while that's possible, so that I'll be able to live off the land when necessary. Yeah, yeah. There, yeah. People are understanding. The Great Taking. The Great Taking is by. I'm gonna go get his name again. The Great Taking. His name is David Rogers Webb. WEBB, and it's in a PDF form. That's I was. I have it on one of my desktops, and I keep meaning to look at it on the plane, but I didn't get a chance to do it yet, and I've been busy right now. So maybe in August I can get a chance to look at it. Hollywood accounting is the global pyramid scheme. Yeah, cameras around my property. I do have cameras here, and I have cameras at my property there because you know you know how the world is. Balcony gardening. I've seen a video with that. That's really beautiful. Just making sure that the rain coming down isn't going to drown the plants. Fig tree is very important. Christ told us to learn the parable of the fig tree. The fig tree really freaked me out because it was so little and now it's huge. As a matter of fact, I've had to get somebody to cut 7 or 8 branches off of it because it's gotten so big that it's covering up almost the camera that focuses down on the back door. But okay, yeah, Thomas put it in there. David Rogers Webb, The Great Taking. I use food grade totes from Lowe's and I put sticks and logs in the bottom so I don't have to use much soil. That's a good one. Another one, Nate, is using old tires. I heard that they were a good source. So if you get an old tire and plant it wherever it, put it where you want it, and put good dirt in there and good soil in there, um, that's just as good as building one of those wooden beds. Roger Moore, Sean Connery. Okay, I'm with Sean Connery, y'all. He was the best one. Roger Moore, Sean Connery was the man. Yep. Let's see. Should we buy homes here or just save for abroad? That's a personal question based on how you feel about where this country is going, based on whether you can afford a house here because they're so high. Some people are getting houses here and living in them, and then they're building abroad also, and they'll rent that house out or give it to family members. It just depends. It depends. I wouldn't look at where you want to put something. I don't know the states that you guys are in, but there are certain states that you would buy in that are better than others. For example, I would never buy anything in California right now. Did you know that they are paying people to bring U-Haul trucks back to California because there's so many people leaving? Anyway, just pick your place very carefully if you're going to buy something. Um, it's not a panic thing. It's like it's whatever you want. Papaya. That's what it is. Thank you, Thomas and Nathan. It's papaya. So there's a big old papaya plant in the front yard, and the guy that I bought the house from said that it wasn't there before. Somebody just threw a papaya seed out there, and that's what happens in Costa Rica. You eat something, you spit it out, and it's gonna grow. Somebody told me about the one of the other properties that I have there. That's what happened with a banana tree. So somebody had a plantain or banana or whatever it was, and then the thing grows up. Costa Rica, aka rich coast. That's what it means, and it's a rich coast. Things will grow there, and they don't allow you to bring seeds over from here because it might affect their ecosystem and their plants. But there's enough over there to eat. There's a there's a lot. So one of the things I learned about when I first got there is these smash. You take a plantain and cut it up and smash it and fry it. And they're called patacones. I'm in love with patacones. I don't eat French fries when I'm here, but when I go there, I eat patacones. It's about time for me to get off in a second. These groups are really trying to kick off the fifth industrial revolution, AI. Yes, they are. And so AI is taking away a whole bunch of jobs, and you got to do something on your own. I see in McDonald's, I don't go in there, but I see like online where they have these kiosks where you order on the kiosk, and then you might have one or two people bringing the food. So thank you. I look amazing. Thank you. I'm trying. I'm 61. I'll be 62 this year. And I'm trying to keep myself together because my mind is still like 40. Yes. Technically since 1871. Okay. All right. Let's see if there are any more questions because I'm going to have to. This thing won't let me go over an hour. If I do that, then it won't load and let me do the things I need to do. I'm learning, y'all. And then I am having a team come in and help me at some point or another, but not yet. I'm just too busy right now. Were you able to establish a corporate? Yes, I did it, y'all. And in Costa Rica, they got PR, but see, y'all, I did get the corporate bank account. I did. It took me 3 days. The first day, the lady sent me to the wrong bank. She had a letter for another bank, and she sent me to Bribri, and then I had to go to Puerto Viejo. Then when I got to Puerto Viejo, they said that my passport number was wrong. So the person that did the paperwork was looking at my corporations were done before the new passport because they changed the passport number. So I had to go back and then the next day and they fixed all that and signed some papers so it was really 4 days. Anyway, the day that I left, which was Wednesday, 8 o'clock in the morning, I was at the bank in line. So I got that done. Yay. I did get that done. Now I got to get the deed to the Middle of Paradise Hills property. That'll be my next really serious goal. With our name being termed as a business, how can we take advantage of it as to the government being what we are represented by a slave surveillance number? I'm not sure of that question. I know what you're talking about. I think maybe the all caps and stuff like that. That's not something that I'm kind of familiar with. I just know that I don't write my name in all caps and I don't let people deal with me in that way. The Federal Mafia is a book written by Irwin Schiff. Yes, ma'am. While in prison, his son Peter referred to him as a political prisoner. He was. I went to Irwin's office. I was in Irwin's office in Las Vegas, and we talked, and we spoken together before they let him die chained to a doggone bed in prison. I was just fit to be tied. I couldn't even talk that day. He contended that the income tax system is, and wait a minute, he contended that the income tax system and Internal Revenue Service, yeah, of course. His book, the other one, Why Nobody Should Have to Pay Taxes, was the one that kind of got me really interested in looking at this. Would you consider doing a session with the real Dana and Judge Joe Brown? I think they would love, well, I mean, I don't mind having sessions and collaborating with people if they come and ask me. I don't know, a lot of these people, are scared to be with somebody that's been in prison. Radiant and younger than ever. Oh yeah, I'm trying. Yeah, I'm trying to keep it together. When buying a house, make sure you get a plumber and check it out. Not just a plumber, but the electrician. I lived in Charleston and I love it. I got one more minute. I'm trying to see if there's some more questions. What are your thoughts on Dr. Claude Anderson's teachings? People need to listen to him, and they're not. What he's talking about doing is it takes a lot of work. And a lot of people don't want to do it. I mean, you can be lazy or, if you're going to be lazy, we're not going to get anything accomplished. With that said, I have got to go, and up in the top of the chat, I put the link for the teaching that we're having, the Escape the Rat Race Challenge that starts on Wednesday night, and I hope to see some of you guys there because I'm getting deep, deep, deep during that. Have a great one.